Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's close to afternoon. We want to welcome you back to the Lioness Den once again. My name is Alonzo Chapman, and we have a very special edition that's coming to you today. So, today we're going to be talking about family. We want to look into that structure. We have a fabulous group of men that are here with us today. We're going to discuss family, the structure, where we're going in this day and age, and all the important questions that may be pressing on you. So, please sit back and relax, enjoy this conversation. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Please comment, and we're going to have a good time. Let's roll some credits. All right, all right. We are back. We are back, and we want to welcome you to the Lioness Den. We have a day for the fellas. We have a day for the fellas. So I'm going to have a quick round robin. We're going to introduce all the fellas once again, and then we're going to get started with our conversation for today. So let's start off with Pastor Andre. He's in my top corner right now, and we're going to move it around. All right, Pastor Andre, introduce yourself to the people today.
I am Philip Andre Wilson. Just glad to be here once again. Thanks for the opportunity.
Very cool. Big James.
Hey, how you doing? James Conner, always a pleasure to be here.
All right. And I got my blood down here in the corner, looking down at the camera. Go and speak to the people, brother.
Okay. Deuce up, A-Town down. Amen.
And of course, we have my brother also joining us shortly. We're going to have Bishop Mark James also joining this conversation. He's getting all his technicalities lined up, but he's going to be chiming in just a little bit. But while we have this esteemed panel, if you would, right now, let's present the conversation today. Family. Family is, if we look at the Bible, it is one of the first institutions that was given to us by God. Family is, if we look at the government, a binding contract between a man and a woman and the established children. Family can look like a lot of different things. And here's the thing. In the year 2022, family is different than what it has been in its inception and throughout the rest of time. So what we want to discuss today is, where is the family? What are we doing with the family? Where's the family now? Is the family still important? Is there value in having blood relatives, or is your chosen family more important than your, given family, if you would? So we want to start and really delve into this conversation today. So here's the first thing. Let's just analyze the structure of the family to begin with. Let's use that as a good jumping off point. How would we describe the structure of the family today? I'm going to turn to one of my two elders here too, that is on the podcast with me, because these are both fellas who are actively men within their family. Mr. Andre, Mr. James, whichever will go first. How would you describe the family in the year 2022? Andre, I think the floor is
I
yours.
would I would say that in many aspects, family, the dynamic as we look at it in 2022, um, challenge, compromise, rebounding. Challenge because unfortunately the bond that many families used to have is no longer there. The reason why it's no longer there is because of various issues. One, I think off the jump, many times people feel like family have lost a sense of connectedness because you don't see them as often as you used to. Um, I remember growing up, my great aunts and a lot of the older relatives, it took nothing for us to go around them for a family function. And sometimes that sense of connectedness is lost because a lot of the older elders that used to keep everybody together, I'll say our historians, are not around. They've gone on. So now we're dealing with generations that sometimes that sense of connectedness is challenged, but I don't think it's always a negative indictment as to why it's challenged. A lot of times it's challenged because times have changed. When we were growing up, there wasn't a lot to keep our attention. They had responsibilities, but not to the degree of complexity that we have now. So it's challenged and it's compromised, not always in a negative sense. However, in a negative sense, it's challenging compromise because I think people will some people lose their sense of value based upon what their uniqueness is. We're all different. And a lot of times families can butt heads when they fail to realize we are complements to each other. So I don't have to be like you. We don't have to have everything in common to still be connected. Rebounding. I think a lot of times what we fail to realize is at the end of the day, all we have is family. So yes, we may go have moments where we go, not have a conversation, may not even deal with each other. But at the end of the day, we are family. So I think that it takes a sense of maturity to look at where their deficits are and understand anytime you have human involvement, you're always going to have issues, but those issues shouldn't neglect us being able to gather together. And the new family reunions, unfortunately, are funerals. If we can learn to regather and regroup without it being a funeral, then we good.
Okay. You want to add to that, Mr. James?
Man, he's spot on everything on that one. I mean, he touched pink, 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 pink. I mean, he was shooting them down in a row. And, you know, just to piggyback off what he said, definitely our matriarchs and our patriarchs, those the glue that held the family together, they're no longer here. And it just seems like no one wants to take up the mantle of such to go ahead to reassure that our families stay connected. It's always jobs. It's always, like you said, it's always something now that grabs our attention to where as though now it's almost about self-preservation, and, you know, and pretty much now it's a thing that we got to almost force ourselves to go around family. And it shouldn't be even a forced thing. You know, it's just like, oh, y'all here? Okay, shoot. Hey, you know what? Let's all get together and everything like that. Nah, it's bad for my schedule. This, that, and the other, you know. And even when you do set a set time, everybody still has an excuse on why they can't come. So yeah, definitely a whole lot of distractions. And now what you're getting now, especially now, you're getting blended families. So now with the blended families, you know what I'm saying, that whole blended family dynamic, somebody may not like your new wife, somebody may not like your new husband, somebody may not like your kids or your stepkids or whatever like that. So now, you know, they feel some type of way. And then next thing you know, the family is divided because of people just in their personal feelings. They don't really have any good reason.
Okay, there it is.
There you go. There you go.
You
Yeah, they
got
don't
it,
even,
man.
like, you know what I'm saying? They really don't even have a reason to be upset. They're just finding a reason to be upset to keep the distance. And that's definitely not what family is about.
Definitely. Well, let me include and introduce. We have Bishop Mark James here joining us. He's getting his camera together. Just to kind of catch you up, Bishop Mark, we are talking about family. We're talking about the family structure. We're talking about what that looks like in 2022. Andre got us started talking about how we need to listen and compromise, and he kind of went through a lot of the different distractions and pressures that the family has to face nowadays, and the lack of gathering together and being able to have that communion and that communication. Did you want to speak to that for a brief second, Pastor Mark?
Well, I mean, just the trend is there is a spiritual assault that's camouflaged institutionally and politically and every other major system interpolates into an absence of the family dinner hour. If in fact we have both parents in the home, in most cases, because of the system, oftentimes it's only one parent in the home. So, and most of the times that's the mama. So that's the state of affairs. That's the sad state of affairs that we have.
So let me because what I'm getting as we go into this conversation, and I'm gonna tie my brother in shortly here. What I'm getting is it appears that back in the day we had a situation where we did not have as much, let's say, financial or political or social success, but we had stronger family dynamics. People struggled financially, but the family was strong. Now we find ourselves through great progress and sacrifice from our ancestors that we have begun to amass more success, if you would, in the economical, social standpoint. So if we're having that success, have we sacrificed our family for our success?
I don't know if I would agree really with that. I don't even know if I would agree with that. It seems that the previous generations did more with less. And that's the true measure of wealth and success, if you will. We spend more, we expend more energy, we work harder trying to sustain more. As if the answer to a lot of what may challenge the family and what may ail the family, if the answer is having more. And I'm not sure that the answer is actually having more. I think the answer is where we place the value of the more. As I know that, we had more time for affirmation. We had more time for intercommunication and just, being a family. We had the one job, or we had two incomes coming in. We were a little bit more prayerful and a little bit more dutiful as to how we allocated, resources. We had more sharing going on. And now, through technological advancement, everybody lives at home. I was talking to a friend of mine in Philadelphia yesterday, and she was alluding to the fact that she works at home and never goes out. So she knows she has a vitamin D deficiency and, a lack of activity in her life, physical activity. So, you have to weigh everything within a fine balance and see what you really value most. Some people value more material. But at the end of the day, and the capability to really instill values and principles in your children to build a strong family nucleus and everything is almost a lost art.
Definitely so. Andre, James, do you want to add to that? Success in the family, is it counteractive? Go.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you go. By all means.
I think one of the things that we have to look at. So, for me, I think we go after success or try to provide a foundation for family, in the sense of working to provide and all of those dynamics. I think for me, one of the things that I'm trying to focus on is that the time that I could be focusing on being a father, I'm focusing on grinding so I can provide. The time that I'm trying to focus on, the time I could use to be a father, to be my presence, or the time I could use to spend time with my wife, I may be spending that time with the children. So it's Mark said something that's true. It's trying to balance. So when I'm not being daddy, I'm being husband. When I'm not being husband, I'm being daddy. Then I have to try to find a space where I'm not being daddy or husband, I'm just being Andre, because if Andre is not good to Andre, I won't be good as daddy or husband. So I think it's like splitting hairs. And at the end of the day, trying to do all we can to balance this scale that's always imbalance, for lack of better words. So I think, it takes a lot of effort and repetitiveness. I don't think at the end of the day we will ever conquer one or the other, as much as the focus should be trying to conquer both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
worthwhile effort. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask this question as we transition, and I want to see if I can pull my brother in a little bit. Traditionally, men, we are seen as the breadwinner. In America, they would say bringing home the bacon. Now, when we look biblically, we are seen as the priest of the home, the spiritual watchdog, if you would, to be the protector of the family. Are those definitions still valid in 2022? And I want to tie my brother in because he has a more of a new age family and things are more blended, and he's dealing with 2022 issues on a daily basis. Is that still a valid role for the man in the family? Are we still primarily breadwinners, or is that something we try to look at with more balance as we go through different phases of women having equality? And we have, this is 2022, things have changed, and we have to look at things differently than, say, our grandfathers or our great grandfathers or even our ancestors past that. We were not always at a place of equality. Do those titles, do those boxes, are they still valid now? God, can you speak to that for me? Just from your perspective, are those still valid boxes? Is the father still a breadwinner? Is he still a spiritual leader for his family?
How y'all doing? Praise the Lord. I apologize. Y'all haven't seen me yet. I'm on my iPhone, but I'm gonna make this work. I see you hear me, so the Lord is good. The best I can tell you is pray. Prayer is the only answer I got for you there. At the end of the day, we cannot rely on ourselves. We can only rely on God. And at the end of the day, if we pray on it, the Lord will answer us. And sometimes it might not be the answer that we want, but the Lord will definitely answer us. And as long as we look to the Lord, then we're going to be good. There's no other answer I can give you. I got a very difficult situation, and I've prayed on it, and I've asked people to pray on it. And so far, the Lord has blessed. And I'll tell you, I have no other answer other than look forward to continue to pray on it, and the Lord continue to bless. There's no other answer that I got. That's best
Okay.
I got.
James, it seemed like you had a little something to add to that.
Yeah, you know what? I think in this time that the role, you know what I'm saying? Because being that, we have this whole gender issue, pronouns and everything like that. Instead of, but one thing that a man is always identified as is protector, is breadwinner, is this, that, protector, breadwinner, that he's supposed to be the leader of the household. Now, a lot of people want this conventional man, but they are not the very same conventional women as far as that's actually want these men. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking like, oh, you want the man to be this, that, and the other. Well, are you the Proverbs woman that God spoke about? So it's a thing as far as like, I thinking sometimes that they love the title, they love the thing of, oh, that he's doing this, and this, but also they're not being the praying wife. They're not being the, the backbone that God appointed them to be. So I'm looking like, well, how can the head move if the, if the backbone is not helping direct it? So,
Be careful, JC. I know Dana. I just saw her a couple weeks ago. I'm going to tell her all these things he's saying.
Hey, you know what?
I'm teasing you.
I need. Like, she is everything I need. And like I said, she's been a godsend. I'm sorry we didn't meet sooner. Definitely. I'm sorry we didn't meet sooner. You know what I'm saying? But it's like in these now times, what you really have is that, like I said, everybody loves the conventional man, but they don't want to get the work, or they don't want to put the work in for the man to maintain his conventional role. So yeah, it can exist, but are the people in place for it to exist? That's always the big question as far as 2022, because now it's a whole lot of talk back. It's a whole lot of, no, there's no compromise. I said what I said, period. That's it. That's all. Wait. All of that. And I'm looking like, pretty much now we can't talk. Now we can't be, have conventional conversation on, yes, you were wrong. You were wrong, but you weren't completely wrong, and I was wrong. How about we meet in the middle? There is no meeting in the middle no more. There's always is either this way or this way. And I mean, it's not a relationship no more. It's a dictatorship, especially if you get with somebody that's unevenly yoked.
I want to add to that. Can I add to that real quick?
Absolutely.
You asked about the role of men as it relates to, are we still a breadwinner? Are we still heads of households? The way society is now, in many aspects, women are making more than men. whether that be because of educational variances or whatever. So men are not always the primary breadwinner. However, as it relates to structure and headship, I think even if the man is not the primary breadwinner, that man, now every household is different, every dynamic is different. But at the end of the day, even if that man is not the primary breadwinner, that man should be made privy to the realities of what finance, whatever money is being brought in, how that finance is allocated. Even if he's not the primary breadwinner, how that finance is delegated to make sure that things are covered. As it relates to headship, now every dude, even if he is the breadwinner, doesn't necessarily mean that he's the best when it comes to money management. So I think it should take, if a guy is in that situation, it's not an indictment against that brother if his lady handles the finance, because one of the challenges for families that are together, especially men and women that are of the same household, finance will destroy a relationship and the structure like nothing other, a lack thereof or mismanagement. As it relates to headship, I think that we can never get away from what is structure. Men are supposed to be the head of the household. Now, that doesn't mean control. That doesn't mean dictatorship. That simply suggests to me that as far as reverence sake, as far as, now let me speak to my household because it's safer that way, because I don't know every dynamic. I'm the head of my household. I understand that as a father and husband, I set certain guidelines and desires and preferences for my household. That doesn't mean that those things that I set as structure can't be fine-tuned. It doesn't mean that it can't be challenged in a way where I can't look at what I'm trying to legislate in a different manner from my wife's perspective or my children's perspective. I think that, again, as it relates to returning respect to the role of the man who is in the household, that respect has to return. Now, I will say this and give it back to you, Alonzo. I think as a man of a household, if you are a man of a household and you have a wife and children, even if it's a blended situation, we as men must give our wives and our children something to respect.
Hey, I wanna focus in on that in a second. I apologize, y'all can't see me. I'm on the
We can
phone.
see you.
I apologize. I want to go back to something you said earlier, Pastor Wilson. Earlier you were saying it is important for us not to be breadwinners, but to have something coming in. If my wife was Oprah Winfrey, I'm still working at McDonald's. It might only be 20 hours, but best believe I'm going to work, because as a man, it is important for us to work and to try our best to do the best that we can.
Yes, sir.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not always the position, the title, the income, or whatever that's coming in. But as a man, you shouldn't feel comfortable, allowing your woman to be the one to hold down the household. You should try your hardest to do the best that you can, whatever is necessary for the household.
I feel you, guy. I'm right there with you, man. Give them something to work with.
Yeah, exactly. Once
Even
again, I
if
want
it's
to apologize
Oprah.
on my iPhone, so please bear with me. But
Yeah, we see.
trust me, I'm with you. I'm listening.
So I think it's better said this way. I think that first of all, that there is a irrevocable value that is not necessarily tied to a dollar value. If in agreement with what these gentlemen are saying, I just try to put a little clarity to it. I think that the man should be in the home. I think if he can't be in the home due to extenuating circumstances, he should be integrally involved. I think that there's a value that a male figure brings that a woman never can. I think that there is, if he is not the chief breadwinner. Whatever the agreement of the house is, I think that's the first thing I heard Brother Guy mentioned earlier. You know, prayer. So in order to really talk about prayer, you're talking about your desires and what we have to do in terms of constructing a stable and a winning or a healthy home atmosphere or family structure. We have to actually, as heads, we are inherently heads, period. And we don't have to climb a ladder to do that. That's just who we are as fathers. I learned that because our children learn through imagery. I learned that with my son Junior. He was 7 years old and he saw me with the clippers dry shaven, and I would keep them in the cabinet beneath the sink. And one day I got a call from his sister. Oh no, it was somebody here at the house at the time. I don't know if it was Rachel or Aaron, telling me that Mark had fell and skinned his chin. Well, what Mark had actually done was went to the bathroom, locked the door, and grabbed the clippers and started shaving his face with no hair.
Oh, wow.
So he had these scrape marks on his chin. It was then that I learned that, not that I learned, but it was really illustrated to me how boys learn from the imagery, just from being around their dad. They pick up tips on and ideas of manhood. And it's the same, of course, with the daughters. The daughters, they bond with their fathers. The first man in their life should set a standard as to what they should expect as they matriculate through life toward adulthood and ladyhood. So, and then he is the guarantor. The male is the guarantor. If indeed you're in a situation where you have a wife who loves you and is willing to and is not offended in submission. Somehow over the years, submission has become a dirty word. I understand what that JC was bringing that up, about, women on the rise. There's nothing wrong. I think the energy goes both ways. I think if you have a woman who's strong, if I was married to Oprah, I would be cool making my $20 doing my paper route or selling my water on the corner or whatever it is. Or if she thought that I should be at home, this is what we would agree upon. But it doesn't make me less of a man, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be her emotional support. I'm going to be her spiritual guide, because she's going to know just simply by, when I open my mouth, she's going to hear God. And so we have to, if anything, strive to be, to savor that value and to provide that service to the family. And in my own personal experience, I have had to do that from a distance, but I did it and I do it. And oddly enough, there have been times when, even though my ex and I are not together, I've been able to minister to her, when she was ready and everything. So it's a state of mind, it's a state of maturity, and it's an approach that we have to have, and we have to go really high up in the air. When you start talking about family and family structure, we need to go high in the air, because there are many different dynamics, and what works for your household may not work for my household. But if we are, as Pastor has said, and as Guy has said, and as JC has alluded to, if we're committed to it, given any set of circumstances, we should be committed to making sure that we can really set a standard for our seed, and we can provide a kind of structure that will trend towards success. This stuff isn't really necessarily new. I mean, Abraham was, I don't know, he had issues. He had issues because he was between two women, and so he had a situation where he was able to be more hands-on, and then he had another whole issue where the woman was saying, cast out this bondwoman, and everything like that. So the complexities of the dynamics has been since the very beginning. If we realize that it is actually spiritual, we can rise to the challenge. And as Brother Guy has said, I'm looking forward to some. It's been prayer, and it's going to be prayer. and he's sorry that we can't see him, but we looking right at him.
I ain't mad at that at all, Bishop. I ain't mad at that at all. Honestly, I'm actually really excited about all of your responses.
I'm not hearing you, Lonzo.
Oh no, can you not hear me?
I can hear
everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. We're gonna get the bishop together. I'm really excited about all of you guys' responses. Because what I've seen in a lot of my experiences, I do a lot of work with young men, and I see a lot of young men who struggle with the security to not keep up financially. So while they're struggling with this, they have not gained the confidence, if you would, within their own self-worth, within their position in the home. So they rely so heavily on the financial aspect in order to kind of prop up their position. And when they don't, for lack of better words, they begin to feel small. So I think it's really pertinent that you, this group, as established men who, work in the home, and you guys are successful in developing successful relationships. I think it's really important that you reaffirm that it's not necessarily all about the finances, because that is very destructive to a lot of young men who are still looking to find their way. I always tell young men that I talk to, please don't always stress yourself to be a 1950-something man. It's 1950-something, so you don't need to put that level of pressure on yourself. And even furthermore, I know myself growing up with 1950 style some men, in my view, there is an inherent pressure, and there's some damage that came from the 1950 style way of being a man back then, because they carried a lot of pressure and a lot of things in silence, and sometimes it manifested themselves as medical conditions or other things like that. So it's really good that we develop this sense of self and this sense of health in our walk, in our position as men. As we move forward, like I want to give us a different question, because we've talked a lot, and Bishop Mark talked a little bit about the imagery that his son kind of took in, and it took me back to I don't know if you all remember the Cosby Show. They had the episode when Theo was going to shave, but he only had about 2 chin hairs, but he had a full face of the shaving cream, and it's a comical reference, but it goes to the imagery. So as we talk about imagery, oftentimes we find ourselves faced with a struggle between the imagery of what our family is receiving from the world, be it social media, be it different types of music, different types of influences, different television shows, even their very friends and what's happening in their families. While your children are taking in, while your family is engaging in so many different images that maybe aren't not necessarily so beneficial to the family, how do you engage this imagery with your imagery and with your influence? I want to open the floor just to explore this question. How do we deal with the conflicting imagery and different pulling factors that affect our families today?
Hello?
You gonna start off for me, brother?
Yeah, I just want to come on. So, I'll be honest. So, as far as imagery is a very difficult one to deal with. People can see whatever they want to see, no matter where they at. Internet is a very dangerous thing. Now, with that being said, as far as imagery and dealing with, being a father, being a man of the household, it's just very important for you to set that example. Just try your hardest to set the example that it is that you want for them to be. What I mean by that is, as far as my son, he's only 4, and I thank the Lord every day he's 4. My daughter's only 4, and I thank the Lord every day she's only 4. Because I ain't gonna lie, the problems that older daughters have to deal with, I hope I never have to deal with. But I feel like as long as I try to make the example myself of what it is a man in the household should be, then I hope that they will follow in what it is that I'm trying to set for them. And I do understand, it's 2022. That's not going to happen all the time. But with that being said, I'm not going to fail because of fear of, trying. I'm going to make sure that I do the best that I can do, because as long as I do the best that I can do, then when I see the Lord in that white robe or whatever robe could be, I hope it's black. I hope it's black. I like black. I watched Black Panther before, so. But nevertheless, I hope that when I see the Lord, though, the Lord can look into my heart and see that I tried with the most purest of my intentions to do the best I could do for them. Now, don't get me wrong. So far, my job ain't started my 401k yet. So I'm hoping that one of these could be my 401k. But if they not, I'm going to love me sing.
Can I take a stab at that? And I'll make mine real brief. I think for me, you said something that was very critical, Alonzo. You said that we're surrounded by images. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, no matter where you go. When I was growing up, we had MySpace, and older I got, we had Facebook. But I can remember.
I had MySpace.
Yeah,
I had my
remember. Black Planet, yeah, JC.
Oh, wait a minute now.
That's a whole nother conversation. But before all of the social media images or imagery, be it TikTok, Instagram, whatever, we had Jet, we had Essence, we had Source Magazine, we had Ebony. All of these magazines that used to come to the house. Imagery. And then you had, of course, TV that was giving off different images. I think for me, as a father, raising teenagers along with my wife, I think what has been a saving grace is communication. I am in a place now more than ever where I value communication, especially with my teenagers, because they're having to live in a world where, for my daughter, she's about to turn 18 soon. Next year, my son about to turn 15. My 18 and my 15 is not their 18 and 15. Two different types. And so what has been saving grace and continues to be, hopefully, prayerfully, is remaining consistent with communication. There's nothing that we don't talk about. Our conversations, somebody alluded to earlier that in regards to your daughter, I think it was Mark, that's the first person, you're the first man that she develops a relationship with. My conversations from the time that they were able to have a conversation on up to now have grown and progressed as it relates to how raw and open and honest our conversations are. Of course, I didn't have every kind of conversation. Now we have all kind of conversations that are raw and open because, again, what you see can affect you mentally and emotionally. And so images play a big role in everything. So I think, again, having that communication. Also, God said this, and it was so true. Setting example, what they see from you. My children have a bird's eye view of who I am. Who I am at home and who I am outside these doors. They know that that's the same individual. As it relates to my calling, when I'm functioning in that aspect of my life, they see that aspect. But once I am done focusing as it relates to ministry's sake, my children know at the end of the day, I am daddy. And I can come to daddy and talk. Another thing, I'll say this and leave it alone. Exposure. I think for my children, they've been extremely privileged to not do like I used to do. Vacations for us was going down south. They have a passport. They've been able to travel, experience different cultures, to see life from a different lens that may be different from what they are exposed to in their own home or surroundings. But nonetheless, they're able to have a broad view, and it all goes back to communication.
Okay. Pastor Mark, did you want to add something? We're discussing the imagery and how we combat that in the present day, outside imagery. You're still muted, Pastor Mark.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
There
I'll
you
say
go.
this
There you go.
I'll say this, that I think the most powerful imagery, you do have the influence of social media, you have peer pressure, all those things. But I think that if we establish rapport with our children, and rapport in the family all the way around. And the thing is to make sure you're getting your point across. Your point, you find, is well taken. I've had situations where at first my point was not well received, and through God's grace and experience of, I've had my child to come back and say, Daddy, I remember everything you said to me, and I didn't like it when you said it, but I need to reckon with you, so that things can get better. And so even when I'll say this, just be encouraged and be committed to repetition. I think Pastor Andre alluded to that, and that is that we have to be committed to repetition. And by both of us being pastors, it's almost an innate capacity, because we learn by repetition. And so we have to allow for a certain amount of patience where things that we've said that don't seem like they've gotten through, say them, and when you've said them, and then you don't want to be obnoxious. And certainly the one thing I didn't want to do was ever really create a situation where when children see you coming, they be like, oh, here come Dad, But the remedy and the antidote for all of that, man, is prayer and humility. I've been, for the most part, I don't get a lot of credit for the amount of humility I know that I've exhibited, but I do, use patience to get through, because it's a matter of their lives. And so you put it in there and have faith and you pray. And guess what? You may not think you're being heard, but you speak anyway, because they are hearing. They're hearing you, and they are hearing you louder than. They're hearing you louder than they're hearing their friends. They're hearing you louder than they're hearing social media influences and everything else. They are hearing you. Don't ever, as dads, we must never underestimate our power, and we must never doubt our power.
Amen.
James, did you want to add
Lonzo,
something to that? Huh?
go ahead. I'm sorry, man. I don't want to cut James off.
Right. Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. So definitely imagery, man. Look, imagery is everything, because for the Black family, especially in the 80s, it was Heathcliff and Claire Huxtable.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That was the powerful image of the Black family. I mean, even if you go and look at our shows in the 90s, you got to see HBCUs always displayed sweatsuits, hoodies. It was always a thing as far as education and knowledge. They always went hand in hand. Now the imagery, and the real reason why I always think it's like psychosomatic or whatever like that, it's almost like a thing of hypnosis. If I keep flashing it and keep flashing it and keep flashing it and keep flashing it, pretty soon what'll happen is I'll start to accommodate, my mind will start to accommodate it, and then I'll start to move in that direction. Now, a lot of people are not free thinkers, so they don't be like, okay, you know what, I'm not doing that. Nowadays people are sheeple. So, so they'll follow a trend rather than march to their own beat. So, it's so much easier to go with the grain than to go against the grain, so, people just love to have that thing of that, oh, I like to get noticed. No matter, it's like I say, hey, all publicity is good publicity. No, it's not. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just like people would rather go ahead and do something in a light of that everybody sees me, no matter how bad it is, because of the imagery of what I saw, and they're sitting around here like, oh, well, yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that. And I'm looking like, why would you go with that knowing what the end is going to be? It's like you see people now, instead of helping, everybody has their phone out.
Absolutely.
It could be an absolute, but you know what though? That started, just progressed. The only thing they did was just make technology more handheld. So now people just follow that trend of, I'm just going to record it and not do anything, like taking pictures of your food, everything like that. You know what I'm saying? It's everything has to be recorded. I don't understand why, but you know what I'm saying? But it's the imagery, hey, this imagery is saying that I'm this, but really behind the imagery, they're none of that. So it's a facade, a farrago,
It's
you know
hollow.
what I'm saying? It's a sham. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is, you know what I'm saying? I am what this picture says I am. You don't know me behind the lens. You know what I'm saying? You don't know me behind the lens. That's simple.
Can I throw something in real quick, Lonzo?
Go ahead and throw that in, and I'm gonna jump on it right quick.
Mark said something that I think is so necessary and vital for every man of every household, whether you're there in the same household or you're in another household, still have involvement. Humility. That really pulled at my heart, because as men, our image and what we portray sometimes, Mark said something that was so true. Oh God, here come daddy. That right there. And he said something that was key. Well, again, that humility. I don't want to portray the wrong image to my teenagers. And as a father and as a man, I've had to go back and apologize to them because I didn't want it. Come on, JC. In that moment, whatever the discrepancy was, I did not want the wrong image to be my new identity as father. JC said something. So growing up, you know, I'm an 80s baby. We had the Huxtables. Lonzo said it's about Cliff. You go back to Good Times. You had
James.
James.
Oh,
you go back to the Jeffersons. Lionel had George. You come back to the early 90s. Family Matters had Carl Winslow. Every one of those family distinctive, but the fathers had a variation of images. And again, that even made me pull myself in the collar. And I'm glad that you asked that, Lonzo, because even now is making me refocus my attention on reevaluate. That's the word. Am I giving the best image that I need to? And do I need to humble myself as a father in a lot more areas that I may not have humbled myself in? So I just wanted, because that convicted me. So thank you, sir.
Humility is definitely it.
Well, so can I tone in for a little bit?
Give me 45 seconds.
All right, I apologize then.
I got you.
I want to point out, he said James had JJ. You got to remember on the episode when it was time for JJ to step up, JJ got a better painting job and painting. He did what he had to do. You got to think about the story of Cole Winslow and Eddie. And when you look at Eddie faced racism, and Eddie pushed through it. You got to think about the story of Cole Winslow. And I'm not going to say Eddie. I'm going to say Steve Urkel. And you got to look at it. Steve Urkel was always a brainiac. But once again, that, in my opinion, it comes from the example that they set for their kids. They set that example. So when they reached that adversity and things were difficult, they were always prepared to push through it. And that comes from this example that they set. And I know they didn't show them praying, but the prayer they did over them kids.
Well, I'm a witness that God will give you the grace to face every challenge.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Like, if I could just add something quickly to it, I think it was really pivotal. We've covered so many good points. But I think one of the things that I just wanted to re-emphasize, because it's one of the things that has been very powerful in my work in the community. Bishop Mark spoke about when you say something to kids, they come back to you. I have spent a lot of time, and I call it planting seeds. I don't believe in arguing back and forth, because sometimes when we try to make a point, we can become traumatic in our good deed. So I try not to argue back and forth when I'm dealing with, especially teenagers. I do what I call planting the seed, and then I let them work with it. And I've seen in the past, because here's the hard thing, we have to have the patience, because I have planted the seed and watched the kids screw up. Now, what I had to do was maintain myself and have the patience for that seed to flourish and grow later. And then I have gotten calls either from apartment buildings or college campuses, and I've got calls from correctional facilities. And they'll say, man, you was right, man. I can hear you in my back of my head. Man, you was right. I was at this job interview. Man, you was right. That girl driving me crazy. But it's a seed that you plant. So I think it's really important that we highlight the humility, and we highlight the patience and the touch and the care that we have to bring to it. But with all that being said, fellas, once again, we are running up on our time. We are running up on it hard. We are in our last 45 seconds, and the conversation gets carried away every single time. There is much more to discuss. I could think of a million topics that we need to touch on. I have some things listed down. We haven't even gotten to these daughters and dating and how we deal with that. Oh, we got the transition into adulthood, because that's a pivotal time, helping
Yeah.
nourish these young teenagers into adulthood. The time between 16 to 22 is so pivotal in the development of a person's personality. But time is not going to afford us to get into all of these topics today. Like we did last time, we will definitely be back. But before we go, I just want everybody take a quick 30 seconds, just give the people a word of encouragement, just something to feel good about today. We'll start up in the top with you, Pastor Andre, and we'll move our way around.
Thanks for the opportunity, Alonzo, and to Linus. Then I just want to say that during these times that we're living in, if ever there were a needed reminder, this is the needed reminder. Cherish the day, and appreciate what God has blessed you with and who God has put in your life, and maintain and manage those relationships with all that you can do. Thanks again. God bless everybody.
Mr. James.
Yeah.
Well,
Also, trust your parenting. Trust your parenting. Trust your parental instinct. Don't ever think that you could be going too far, because the thing about it is that, and even if you do think you're going too far, also have the humility, like Pastor Mark James said, to go ahead and come back and apologize. You know what I'm saying? But definitely trust your parenting, and definitely stay the course. But you're not your kid's friend, but you are their friend at the same time.
Very good. Guy, you got some words for us before we go?
So last time I ended on a joke, so I'm not gonna do that this time. But with that being said, though, I want to thank you all for having me, and I secondly want to thank for being a part of such a great panel of people that's older than me, dealing with issues that I haven't got to yet, like certain issues I haven't got to yet. But with you all, I think I'm gonna hear the information I need, or at least an inkling towards what it is I need to do when it is my time. So I just want to thank you all for having me.
Very good. And last but not least, and it's going to be the struggle here, because this is the bishop and he pontificates. Bishop, can you wrap it up for us? Give us a nice tight bow.
as a father, I will say that forums like this are a great resource. We need to network, and we need to touch each other as fathers, and support each other. As an approach to fatherhood, I give you the scripture that Paul gave to the saints of the church in Philippi, chapter 4, verse 6. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known unto God. And then verse 7 says, the peace of God that passeth all understanding will guard your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ our Lord. There will be challenges as a father, and we talk as Afro-American dads, but the role, it really exceeds culture. In every culture, you got dads, and every dad has to do the same stuff. This stuff is structural, and it can be done, and it can be done with prayer. And just approach it with a certain level of confidence. Put confidence into your children. Understand and know that these children that have been given you are the heritage of the Lord, and it's His reward to you. So you are capable, and you have what it takes. Understand and know that your mouth is the power piece. And so if you want your children to be it, speak it over them, pray it over them, talk it into them, and don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid, and cast all your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will train you on your feet. Quick anecdote, and I close. We were at my mother's homegoing, and it was that time when everybody began to break down. We were at Garrison Forest in the pavilion there, and the guy, he knelt down, and it helped me a little bit because he was crook, he caca, So I was able to deflect a little, but on my right side was my sister who fell apart, and then there are my children here on the left-hand side, and I was like, Lord, I need to tell them something. And God gave me the analogy of moving from one house to the next on my feet. And I can give you countless anecdotes, but that God will give you what you need on your feet. I explained to them the analogy of moving from an old house to a new house, took them around the back and showed them what happens to the old house told them, because they had just recently moved into a new house, how you forget the old house. And God is good. And it was sufficient for them to get them through that moment of grief. But if we just commit to being there for our children from the heart, whatever we need, whether it be material or spiritual, God will supply the need right, real time. All right.
All right, all right, all right. Well, this has been another exciting panel. We have spilled so much wisdom. We've had so much fun fellowship and communion today. It has been good again. I see a couple of the comments. It appears that people are enjoying the conversation once again, and that is always exciting. But what we want everyone to do is please take these tidbits and apply them to your life. We don't just do this so we can hear ourselves talk. We do this so that we can be a part of that village that we all need. We want to pour into everybody's life. We want our wisdom to make your life easier. We want you to be prosperous and grow in every aspect that you're looking for. I thank each and every member from our panel today. You gentlemen were absolutely excellent. I am excited about the next time we will get a chance to go. Of course, again, Bishop Mark, you gave us the nice bow that we need to wrap it up.
Oh no, man, we're thankful for you. You do a great job moderating, and to your credit, and I don't mind just going into your story. You haven't had the ideal situation, but you are very relevant here in this space and very comfortable, and you're bringing out great points. And so I pray that God bless you one day to understand and know too, you're a father in your own right. I heard you alluding to it, but be encouraged, man. Be encouraged. You something special.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But with all that being said, fellas, there's nothing left to be said. Lioness, then we appreciate your time. We will see you next time, and we're going to spill out some more wisdom. We'll talk to you later.